Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the March 22, 2024 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. Thanks to Bob Kachoy and Denny Jarvie for greeting today. Thanks to Eric Marcus and Henry. Thanks to Henry for taking care of the Ticketmaster duties. Eric and Beth with the setup. Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Swick for the great programs. And to Jim Gundel for handling the website. And invite Denny Jarvie forward for the invitation.
Well, good afternoon. Would you please join me in prayer? O Holy Creator, we pray together, each of us in according to our own individual beliefs. We offer thanks for our food, blessings for one another, and absent friends. Let us be a source of hope for those in need, and contentment for those who are lonely. Give us gratitude for our opportunity to serve Rotary. Let the feelings of love, kindness, well-directed, and gentle spirit always be reflected in our actions. Amen.
All right, Secretary's report, Joe Jenkins.
So we're at 55% today. We have several guests. Fran, would you like to start?
We have several Vincentians from St. Vincent de Paul Society. We have Michael Vanderberg, who's going to be our speaker. He's also a fellow Rotarian. We have Christine Hampton, who helps keep us straight with finances. Jerry Seamus, who is a volunteer, and Claire Vanderberg, who works for St. Vincent de Paul.
Shannon has two guests.
I have Brianna and Abby here with me today.
You always look shocked when he calls on you.
I know, right? Go now.
All right, first.
I know, right? Beth.
Yes, I have a visiting Rotarian from Xenia who I'm trying to convince to come to Beavercreek. Vivian, please introduce yourself to her if you have not met her. She has a fabulous story, work that she's done in Africa, and that I'm happy that we're going to be partnering her with the library to feed children in Green County.
Okay. Don Adams. Come on down. Okay. To that rousing round of applause. We're racing around today, aren't you?
You better take this one off.
Okay.
Yeah, I just came from Wilberforce. Yeah, the only president being inducted to there today, so I had to speak to a lot of people. It will probably go on until 3 or 4 o'clock Saturday. Today is March 22nd, 2024. By the way, I was at Pets last weekend, which is President-elect Training Seminar for Rotary, and I found out we are doing a good job here. Compared to a lot of other things, we have a good job. It is the 22nd of March, 82nd day of the year. It's hard to believe it just was 3 months in already. Today we celebrate As Young as You Feel Day. Some of us don't feel quite so young anymore. Gryffindor Pride Day. International Day of the Seal. International Talk Like William Shatner Day. Gee. One of the days that I love, I don't have any of the National Goof Off Day. National Sing Out Day. And one that Rotary's really proud of, World Water Day. This week, we also recognize Act Happy Week, American Chocolate Week, Clutter Awareness Week. It's International Goof Off Week too, so you can do it all over the world. National Anonymous Giving Week, National Bubble Week, and National Clean Out Your Closet Week. And I'm sure there's a few of us that have a closet or a garage that really could use like What happened on this day in history? In 1349 was the Black Death Massacre. Townspeople massacred. A lot of Jews blamed them for the Black Death. In 1622, the first American Indian, I don't always call him Powhatan, he's Powhatan. Found that out when I was in Jamestown. First American Indian massacre of Europeans in Jamestown killed 347 people. In 1765, the Stamp Act was passed. In 1790, Thomas Jefferson became the first U.S. Secretary of State. For you nurses out there, in 1861, the first U.S. nursing school was chartered. And for you Ohio State grads, in 1870, Ohio State University was established as the Ohio Agricultural and Mechanical College, public land grant college in Columbus. In 1917, the USA was the first nation to recognize the new government of Russia. And one that I know we're all happy about, in 1933, FDR signed the Cohen-Harrison Act, legalizing the sale of beer and wine up to 3.2%. In 1941, James Stewart was inducted into the Army, becoming the first major American movie star to wear a military uniform in World War II. He went on to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom and was promoted to Major General on the retired list in 1985. In 1946, the first U.S. rocket to leave the Earth's atmosphere went 50 miles up. In 1960, the first patent for lasers was granted. And in 1963, Alcatraz final inmates were transferred off the rock and then closed after nearly 3 decades. It was morphed from one of the country's most feared locales to one of California's biggest tourist attractions. And I know some of us remember this. In 1972, the U.S. Congress approved the Equal Rights Amendment. Still not ratified. And this one I remember pretty well. All the young people sitting there waiting to go up. In 1997, the comet Hale-Bopp was the closest approach to the Earth. That's when I stood there and thought we're just going to be sucked up into them. Also, since I missed last week, there's a couple of things that I need to catch up on. We had a couple of birthdays. March 19th, Shannon Graham. And March 18th was Jonathan Hebrink. And partner birthdays, Amanda Jenkins was on March 15th. The English language is a curious melting pot of words. From across the globe through millennia of invasions, wars, and colonial expansions. There's a couple of words that I want to kind of go over this day and kind of give you where they came from. Does anyone know where the word sandwich came from? Sandwich, that's right. You know why he did that? There's a couple of different things. It said that supposedly he invented the sandwich is a subject of hot debate among linguists. Some believe he consumed his food between 2 pieces of bread so he didn't have to leave his beloved gambling table. Others say it was he was working so hard at his desk he didn't want to leave. Either way, And then clue. English speakers stole this from the Greek gods. It was taken from the word clue, C-L-E-W, in Greek mythology. So when a minotaur, a monster with the body of a man and the head of a bull, trapped the mythical king Theseus in a labyrinth, Theseus said it should have no escape using a ball of yarn or clue, as they called it. He used the yarn to track his path so he could follow it back after he got lost. So clue came to mean something that guides your path. Nice. Teachers in the English-speaking countries often despair at the overuse of the adjective nice in their students. And it turns out they now have even more reason to ban the word from the classroom. The term was originally a negative one, meaning ignorant or foolish. It's thought that it slowly became positive over time because once it was introduced into the English language, it was often used to refer to a person who was ludicrously overdressed. Later, this was confused with a reference to something that is refined or to someone who is nicely dressed. A nightmare. It's pretty clear when first where the word nightmare came from. But what about the mare part? Well, the questions among you may wonder if it has anything to do with horses. This is misleading. A mare actually refers to a female goblin that sits on you, suffocates you while you sleep, entangles in your hair around you in a mare lock, and tries to induce bad thoughts.
Is that where the word marriage came from?
I don't know.
Pretty bold when you're away from home there, Kevin. Right.
I have some things you can take home from this particular one that you can use later, but you'll hear those. Ketchup, tomato sauce you slather over your fries, not always have tasted quite like it does now. There are many theories about the term, where the term originates, but the first possible reference might have been as early as the 17th century, when the Chinese used kochia to refer to a mix of pickled fish and spices. Asking. In the 1980s, tomato ketchup was used as a medicine to cure ailments like diarrhea, indigestion, and jaundice. It was often sold in the form of tomato pills. I went to a restaurant one day and it was full. There was no place to sit, and I had to wait. It was over 30 minutes. I took out my cell phone, pressed it to my ear, and said loudly, "Hey, get over here. She's here with somebody else." 6 couples got up and quickly left. Simon, let's go hang out the books at a kid's home. There was one I called her mother and said, "My husband and I have been fighting so much lately. I'm going to come home and live with you again." Her mother replies, "No, dear, you should pay. He should pay for his mistakes. I'm coming to live with you." And then my wife and I went to a new ranch while we were in Texas. The cowboy preparing the horses asked if she wanted a Western or an English style saddle. And she asked what the difference was. He told her one has a horn and one didn't. Well, she replied, "The one without the horn is fine. I don't expect we'll run into much traffic." Then there was a blonde guy with a brunette girl who were happily married and about to have a baby. One day the wife started having contractions, so the husband rushed her to the hospital. He held her hand as she went through a trying birth. In the end, there were 2 little baby girls. The blonde guy turned to his wife and angrily said, "All right, who's the other father?" And here's one for you, Shannon. A man had started an ad to classified. So the wife wanted. Next day he received 100 letters. They all said the same thing. "You can have mine." Then Coffee walked into a restaurant and wanted to order chicken. But unfortunately, English was not his first language. And he couldn't remember how to say chicken in English. Kobe sees the guy at the table next to him with a plate of 4 boiled eggs on it. And he points to the plate of eggs and says, "I want their mother." All right, here you go, Shannon. These are man rules. You can take these home with you. I'll have copies later for anybody that wants them. Finally, you get the guy's side of the story. So, number 1, and these are all number 1. They're not 1 through 10, they're all number 1. Men are not mind readers. Think about that. Conversations you've had with your wife. Number 1, learn to work the toilet seat. You're a big girl. If it's up, put it down. We need it up, you need it down. You don't hear us complaining about you. Sunday sports. It's like the full moon. or the changing of the tides, let it be.
Copy that, no?
You have copies for anybody that wants them. That's the truth. Crying is blackmail. Crying is blackmail. Yeah. Ask for what you want. Let us be clear on this one. Subtle hints do not work. Strong hints do not work. Obvious hints do not work. Just say it. Yes and no are perfectly acceptable answers to almost every question. It took me a long time to learn this one. Come to us with a problem only if you want help solving it. That's what we do. Sympathy is what your girlfriends are for. Anything we said 6 months ago is inadmissible in an argument. In fact, all comments become null and void after 7 days. If you think you're fat, you probably are. Don't ask us. If something can be said and can be interpreted 2 ways, and one way makes you sad or angry, we meant the other one. You can either ask us to do something or tell us how you want it done. Not both. If you already know the best way to do it, just do it yourself. Hearts of our Columbus do not need directions. Neither do we. All men see only 16 colors, just like the Windows default settings. Peach is a fruit, not a color. Pumpkin is also a fruit. We have no idea what mop is. If it itches, it will be scratched. Do that. If you ask us what's wrong, if we ask you what's wrong and you say nothing, we will act like nothing's wrong. You know, you're lying, but it's just not worth the hassle. If you ask a question you don't want an answer to, expect an answer you don't want to hear. Remember that the person who arrives late is always happier than those who are waiting. You have enough clothes, you have too many shoes. I'm in shape. Round is a shape. I probably will be sleeping on the couch tonight after my wife sees this, but I have copies of this for anybody in here who wants to take it home. And after that, I'll leave you a couple of quotes about marriage. A happy marriage is a long conversation which always seems too short. Happy is the man who finds a true friend, and far happier is he who finds a friend in his wife. There is no greater risk than matrimony, but no greater happiness than a happy marriage. Today's lines, if you know what a Gryffindor is, that's $1. If your closet or your garage needs cleaning, that's $1. If you attended Ohio State, that's $1. If you had a drink in the last week, that's $1. And if you're not wearing a Rotary pin, that's $1. David, I didn't take all of them, but it's happy bucks time.
Thank you, sir. All right, it's not happy bucks. All right. Is that all right? You have a happy buck?
It's happy.
Okay. Any particular thing it's happy about?
Today's a good day.
All right, fair enough. Oh my gosh, happy buck for the Huffs coming in with kind of new this one, stealing the show. Came into the room, not Friday, that's all right. Here's so it's good. Same excuse, just yeah, you know.
So, yeah, we were in the area, she had a doctor's appointment, so, I wanted to come by and say hello, so.
You should see Daddy's picture up here on the preview.
It's not, yeah, and there's another one, next week, it's gonna be a great call.
So it really makes you look like a naturalist that's in here.
They're quite weird, though.
It's next. Yeah.
Steve, 3, 2, 1.
Look at that.
I like that picture better. Okay. Well, it's a cool looking logo though, so. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up. All right.
Got a happy buck, go Flyers. They, came up, 17 points down, wins by 3.
Yeah, other happy bucks. Yes, sir, Jack.
Go, Jack.
But I wasn't here last weekend, and that's not what makes me happy, but I had the opportunity to go to California, tour SpaceX where my grandson works. And that's an impressive operation in California.
All right, nice.
I better also thank everyone that supported me. I was terribly excited and happy to run unopposed. So I'm honored to be the Republican nominee for state rep in the fall. So thank you all for your support.
Congratulations. Second.
Sarah is a high school senior and she's gonna go from state, all study aerospace engineering. I'm happy we're done with Beaver colleges.
Other happy bucks. All right. Any announcements?
Oh, yeah.
You're just stealing the floor here.
I'm sorry. It is late, but we're doing dictionary deliveries again. The book, I got a sign up sheet going around. Raise your hand if you've delivered these before. So most of you, those of you that are interested, see one of the folks that raise their hands, they can give you a 10-cent tour of how it's done. We have new dictionaries. They're the same, but it looks different. Okay. It's still the encyclopedic version with all the cool stuff in the back of it. This is different. It's not a coloring book. It's just the paperback version of the book. The hardback version was a lot more money, so we got this. So this will be delivered to the second graders and this to the third graders. So what you do, those of you that are volunteering, you call the school and usually ask for the principal and make an appointment to deliver the books. Before your appointment, I will have each of piles of books in my office with sticky notes over. So if you're delivering for Maine, it'll say Maine. If you're delivering for Trayvine, it'll say whatever. And you come to the office, pick those up, and then deliver them to your school at that as your designated time. Does anybody? It's very simple. The kids love it. It's a lot of fun. You give these books to the kids. They're theirs to keep. So we tell them, put your name on the inside. This is from Rotary. Usually with the dictionary, I ask them to look up the word service or something like that. Raise your hand when you find it, stuff like that. It takes about 5 to 6 minutes per class. So depending on the size of the school, it depends on how long you'll be there. You're usually in and out in an hour. The principal usually knows what to do. You want to get a cart, have the cart come out of your car, put the books on there, and then deliver. Any questions? Ed?
Do you have the books in stock yet?
Yes, they're in the office. They're not piled by school yet. I just got up the coloring books yesterday, but they will be before Monday. So okay. Go ahead and if you're signed up and you're ready to go ahead and make the appointment. I'll have them ready.
If you know the coloring books work because he's already tried them out.
That's right.
So, all right. Thanks,
all right,
Brian.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. Okay. Any other announcements? Yes.
So the last Saturday in April is our Rotary District's service project. It's a National Day of Service, and we will once again be partnering with Rebuilding Dayton Together, where we'll be going into the inner city And historically, we've done either a garden or park. I'll find out the first week of April what our project is. But you should have received an email for the district to sign up. If you're interested, contact me and I can send you the link directly to our district's volunteer sign up specifically for that.
I was gonna say, if you haven't done that before, it's a lot of fun. We were working on a park last year. One of the neighbors of the park had their car parked and it was like covered with brush. We started flipping the brush off and 5 minutes later, she's over helping us as well. So it's really cool.
Any other announcements? Okay, on the table, is a, information sheet about, nominating someone or some group for the Outstanding Community Service Award. We give to a person or group every year. And so that tells you how to send an email or to Jim Rudd with nomination and kind of the basics of how that is decided. All right, so the drawing for our split the pot here, our half goes to the Christmas Basket Project. For a chance to draw for the Queen of Hearts, you are looking for ticket number 339175.
What's that?
Alex there.
That's got.
It is.
That's why you're here.
Okay. Brandon, let's come forward. You introduce our program.
Oh, so close.
So hot grows.
That's all that's.
Well, it is my pleasure today to introduce the guest speaker because I am a member of the St. Vincent de Paul Society and have seen firsthand the great work that Michael's doing. So I'm very happy to be able to introduce him. Michael Vandenberg is the Executive Director of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in Dayton. He's a native of Dayton. His career path includes public service as a police officer and corrections officer, and since 1999, nonprofit leadership in financial development and executive roles in Iowa, Kentucky, and Ohio. Michael's a graduate of the George Washington University, Wright State University, Sinclair Community College, and attended law school in Ohio Northern University and the University of Dayton. Michael and his wife, Anne-Marie, have 4 children and lives in Oakwood, where Michael has been a Rotarian since 2002. So please help me welcome today's speaker, Michael Vandenberg.
Thanks, Fran. Pleasure to be with everybody today. You know, every time I go to a Rotary meeting, it's great to see faces that I know, like Jeff Garita back there. Thank you, Chief, for keeping us all safe here. And of course, Christine Hampton, a Beavercreek resident, who has been keeping us solvent at the St. Vincent de Paul Society for over 14 years now. Thank you, Christine. And Jerry sitting next to her is a wonderful volunteer and longtime supporter. So glad to have you here, Jerry. And my daughter Claire is working for St. Vincent de Paul USA Disaster Services, which coincidentally enough, I was talking to Jeff and the group of sheriffs and police chiefs not too long ago. So Claire, you should probably connect with Chief Faria before we leave too. And then last but not least, you know, I'm going to touch on this a little bit in my presentation, but one person I was not anticipating seeing today was someone who I first met in the fall of 1988 when I had the privilege of being a high school senior who was able to take college classes at Sinclair Community College. And, you know, this particular person was a professor, an adjunct professor, teaching a 4-hour class. Now, how many of you ever taught a 4-hour class in the evenings? I know you have. You should be raising your hand right now. It was none other than then County Commissioner Chuck Curran. And, you know, Chuck, I know it's impossible to embarrass you because you get attention all the time, but never forget the impact you can have on a young person's life, inspiring them to public service. So thanks, Chuck. I'm so glad to see you here. All right, so I'm going to get back to my originally scheduled. Did you set the down arrow, right, Ben? All right, here we go. We're going to try this. There it works. Okay, so, you all are probably familiar with the St. Vincent de Paul Society for one particular reason, and that is for almost 40 years, we've been running homeless shelters here in Dayton, Ohio. And, I've been there about 6 years. And this is kind of a rough thing to say. I think we have the largest shelters in the United States, right here in Dayton, Ohio. It's a hard thing to determine because nobody wants to be known for that, right? But I'm looking everywhere and I can't find anybody who has the capacity that we have. That's what you know about us. But what you may not know about us is how we started out in neighborhood ministries. And just real briefly, we were founded by a bunch of college students in Paris in 1833. So we're about 200 years old. And basically, we were founded in response to a challenge. And the challenge was, you Catholics talk a good game about serving the poor, but what do you really do? And so these college students took that challenge and they took it to heart, and they visited with the local sisters of charity in their area, and the priests that were Vincentian priests. And they decided to form this conference of charity to go out 2 by 2 and visit people in their homes and provide them with what they needed to keep them stable in their homes. So here we are almost 200 years later. We're doing that all across the Miami Valley, including locally here out of St. Luke Parish. We have 30 neighborhood ministries right now, run by more than 600 volunteers, and we provide more than $2 million each year in cash and in-kind assistance to help keep people in their homes. So that's kind of the core of who we are and what we do. We're what's called a lay association of the faithful, the Catholic Church. And here, whoa, that wasn't me. That was you.
No, it's not.
Here locally, we've been operating since about 1930, continuously, starting out with Our Lady in the Rosary Parish down by Dayton Children's Hospital. Is that not working? That be broken.
I did. Click on the slideshow. It'll.
Here we go. And for quite a few years now, we've been also doing supportive services for veteran families, which is a really exciting thing for us to be engaged in. We currently engage about 100 veteran households a year. One of the interesting things about veteran homelessness is the Department of Veterans Affairs has a lot of financial resources to apply to this. So I can say we really do the best job with veterans, keeping them homed. And there was a period about 6 years ago when we got to what we call functional zero homelessness, where every veteran who came to us, we were able to keep them housed or get them housed. And so that's a pretty special thing. Unfortunately, I can't say that for everybody else, but for our veterans, I think we do a pretty good job of focusing on serving them. We also have our thrift store, which some of you in this room would remember as the old Concord City. That's now on Edward C. Moses Boulevard. City Thrift, we've been there for 20 plus years. We just recently renamed our operation to City Thrift. We have a thrift store and furniture bank there, and we're open Monday through Saturday. And we use that thrift operation to provide clothing and household goods and furniture, both to our neighborhood conferences that operate throughout the Miami Valley, including St. Luke, but also to anyone who comes in to purchase on a thrift basis. And we also have a furniture bank there, which is pretty unusual because furniture is big and it's expensive to move, and it's hard to provide to people who need it. But we're sticking with that, and that's been something that we're especially excited about. And back to what I started out with, it's been almost 40 years when the city of Dayton approached members of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul to see if we would take on what was originally that former fire station on 5th Street at Wilkinson, which is now the Sinclair UAV building. It's been raised and rebuilt. And then about 20 years ago, we moved to the former Elder Behrman Furniture Warehouse on Apple Street, where we had where we established our shelter for everyone. And then, just a few years after that, we opened the shelter on Gettysburg Avenue, the former city workhouse that is currently our men's shelter. So, you'll see on your table, I put out a couple of on each table, and there's nobody sitting at this table, so if you want to steal those, you certainly can. This, and actually, I think it's also on the screen here for anyone viewing at home. Here we go. On the one side is what we call the self-reported reasons for homelessness. This is the big pie chart side. And this is what people are reporting to us when they come in, okay? Now, recently, we've had over 500 men, women, and children in shelter. A huge number of people. Last year, the last 4 months of the year, we were averaging over 100 children per night in our women and family shelter. Last night, I think we got about 60, which is 60 too many, but better than 100, of course. So if you look at these self-reported reasons for homelessness, you'll see that the number one is family conflict, followed by eviction, no affordable housing, other, and then mental health. Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out to you. One is, these are what people are telling us when they show up. This is what they're telling us. The other thing I want to tell you is, these are not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, people can have multiple categories here. But the family conflict sticking out as number one is kind of the heart of what I want to talk to you about. How many of you have been in this Rotary Club for more than 20 years? 5, 6, 7? How about more than 10 years? Okay, I picked up another one. And as Fran mentioned, I've been a Rotarian over 20 years. How about a faith community? How many of you have been part of a faith community for 20 years or more? Okay. Everybody who just raised your hand, you are dinosaurs. You're not dinosaurs because you're old. You're dinosaurs because you belong to a civic group, a faith group, something that has a fabric of community and union in a group of people. Those of you who have been in this club a long time, go back to the early days of when you first joined, and think about what's happened between then and now. Think of all the good times that you shared with your happy bucks, but also think about the illnesses, think about the deaths in the family, think about divorce, think about job loss, think about all the life transitions that you've seen come and go in this club. And furthermore, you've seen come and go in your faith community. And think about how you and others have relied on other people in your group for a certain resiliency, whether it's to pull you out of a fog, or whether it's to lift you up, or whether it's to give you a referral to a new job, or whether it's to introduce you to someone who would become the love of your life. All of these things are opportunities that you have because you are engaged in this very particular way, because you have that unit of togetherness. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, a watershed moment in my life was 2006. And it was a watershed moment for none other than this. Okay? What we refer to as the smartphone came out in 2006. And it has changed the world. It's changed the world in a lot of really cool ways, right? That I can basically run my office from wherever I am. I can answer the phone, I can send emails, I can do whatever. But it's also been this incredible source of overwhelming distraction. And it's pulled us into a further vortex of individuality. We know that we've been on a path of individuality for a long time in our culture. We are to the point where we are encouraged to pursue our own pleasures, our own individual pleasures. And when we don't have a community to check us on that, when we don't have those regular interactions to hold us up, when we don't have those opportunities to remember that we are social creatures who depend on each other, then bad things happen. And one of the bad things that happens is chronic homelessness. That's the end of the line. And, I tell everybody to live in the Miami Valley area. This is a great place to live if you're someone in need and you want help. So if you ask for help, help's going to be here. It's great that we have the wonderful network of human services here. Every system has gaps, but we don't have a whole lot of gaps. And I can tell you that since December of 2009, when we opened the Gettysburg shelter, we've never turned anybody away because there's no room at the inn. We've always had places for people to stay. We've always had food to feed them. We've always had clothing for them. We've always had some basic level of accompaniment. But we're talking about over 500 people. And if you flip the page to the other side, you can see these are the trends that we're looking at. And these are points in time in October of 2015, 2018, 2022, and 2023. Now you'll notice we skipped over the pandemic because that had its own interesting aspect that I was talking to my table about just a few minutes ago. One of the interesting things that we've noticed is that sheltering is a supply-driven business. In other words, if you build it, they will come. What do I mean by that? Well, what you don't see on the trends here is that when we had the shutdown in March of 2020, overnight, Governor DeWine announced the shutdown. The next day, 30% of people in shelter disappeared. They just left. Now, I'm here to tell you, they didn't all just go live in their cars. So a huge portion of them rehoused themselves on the spot. And how did they do that? Well, they did that because they had friends, family, neighbor who took them in, who was scared for them. And do you remember what it was like in March of 2020? We knew this bad thing was happening. There was no, what do you call it? The vaccination,
Yeah, no vaccine.
Yeah, no vaccine, thank you. I'm all like, couldn't come up with that word. Thanks, Beth.
Okay.
You almost pulled through for me. This is working and thank you. You remember what that was like. No one wanted to be in a congregate setting with other people. But the fact remains they had other choices to make. And the people on the receiving end also made choices to receive them, right? So what does that tell us? That tells us that there's a certain percentage of people who come to shelter who can solve their housing problem in a short period of time. Maybe it doesn't solve the long-term part. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is, and these individuality choices that we have. The fact of the matter is, 85% of the adults in shelter are single. 85% of them are single. There's never been enough housing in the history of the world to have 85% have their own place. And so, yes, I know affordable housing is a challenge. I know that. I know that we need to work hard to get people housed who are in shelter. But it's also true that we can't possibly give every person their own place. Now, you may have seen a couple of, I guess it was Monday morning in the paper. My friend Amy Regal was quoted in a story by Corey Froelich. I thought it was a great story about the housing need for low-income housing. And you may have remembered that in the Dayton area, we are short about 18,000 housing units. And in Ohio, generally, about 270,000 housing units. So if you do the math on it, of what that would cost to provide, just in the Dayton area, just looking at that low income part, not the lowest income part, not everything else, that's a $2.8 billion building problem. That's just building. And in Ohio, generally, it's over $40 billion just for the lowest income folks. Now, that's just building a place. That's not maintaining it. It's not doing anything other than providing that for the people who cannot afford it, the lowest income folks. So, when people ask me what the solution to homelessness is, I have a very basic answer, and it's rooted in the history of my organization and the root of what Fran and her colleagues do in our neighborhood conferences. And it's basically this: love one another. Love one another. The extent that I am willing to see Chuck and see his needs and put his needs above mine is an expression of love. And the extent that he will reciprocate that is also an expression of love. Now, that's my daughter Claire sitting back there. Naturally, I'm going to have a deeper commitment to Claire than I am to Chuck. Right? I mean, that's what we want. We want folks to look after their domestic family first, their inside family first. These are sort of the basic things that we're having to reconnect people with. Our shelters right now are full of people who I used to say had ruptured relationships. They had deep relationships that are ruptured, and we need to repair those relationships. Now we have more and more people who never had deep relationships in the first place. So now we're thinking about how do we mentor them to help them learn the value of a deep relationship? How do we model that for them? How do we create a web of community for them where they see the value in that, and then the people who should be loving them are also seeing the value in that. And ladies and gentlemen, this is hard work. It's hard work. There's no amount of money we can spend to make that happen. This is one-on-one mentoring. This is inspiring people at the teacher level, like I was just talking about earlier. This is inspiring people at the public service level, but also taking a special interest. When one of Jeff's officers is out meeting with folks, their primary work is not slapping handcuffs on people. Their primary work is building bridges and showing people that they're loved and they're cared for. This is the fabric of community that we all need to focus on so much better than we have been. And in this world of thousands of inputs of this thing telling us what we should be doing with our time that distracts us from the person in front of us, that's our real challenge. And if we want to make headway in approaching things as drastic as homelessness, that's where we got to start. So that's my talk, and I'm happy to take questions or comments from everybody right now.
Alex.
Quick question. You still take car donations? Because I donated a car in 1989.
Skip that slide.
Yeah.
We do still take car donations. And thank you for that. Oh, damn.
Or you want it back, Alex?
Hey, it was a great car.
You remember the year and everything.
Yeah, 88. Yeah, driving it down there. Blue station, super station wagon.
Well, we actually have 2 cars now that were donated to us that we're actually driving. So yeah, we definitely use vehicle donations. We appreciate that. Yeah, Beth?
What are things you wish people didn't donate?
Oh my goodness, things we wish people wouldn't donate, things that you should throw away. Yeah, I am embarrassed to say that about every day we have a full truck going to the dump. So when you can give us things for free, it's not free. If we can't sell it in the thrift store or use it to put on the backs of our guests in the homeless shelter, then yeah, we have to throw it away for you. But if I have to do that for you, then great, just send me a gift. Don't pay for it. Yes.
Do you accept mattresses and bedspreads?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Until very recently, we did accept used mattresses. Now we generally don't, but I do make exceptions. So yeah, but that's a great question. So that related to the whole furniture piece, handling things. moving things, especially big bulky things, it's prohibitively expensive for us to do. And so much of it has become things that should be thrown away that people don't want to have their own, trouble picking up, so they put it on us. But yeah. Chuck?
How many nights in the shelter is a person eligible to stay? 3, 5?
Great question. How many nights are people eligible to stay? The short answer is unlimited. We want people to have the time that they need. Now, with that being said, roughly half of people who come to shelters self-correct within a couple of weeks. And about almost half of them self-correct within 3 or 4 days. Meaning they just need a place to stay. They need an opportunity to connect with their aunt in Milwaukee or whatever it is they're doing. Sometimes it's an eviction or a job loss where they just need time to, save up for another deposit or, so there is, what I've been talking about is chronic homelessness. There's this episodic homelessness that we have a lot of people pass through. In 1 year, we have about 4,000 individuals come through our shelters. 2/3 of them are from Montgomery County. And that also means 1/3 of them are not from Montgomery County. We recently had a very unusual situation where someone found us online with a web search and hopped on a plane from Philadelphia and came to our shelter. And you know what? I'm glad we were there for that person, and I'm happy to have served them, and it all turned out as best as it could, and we were there for them. So that's kind of unusual that someone would hop on a plane and come to us. But yeah, people stay as long as they need to, and it's a real blessing that we're able to do that. 1/3 of the support that we need to run our shelters comes from you and your private donations. The other 2/3 come from federal sources and the Montgomery County Services Levy. Yeah, Frank?
Of the services that you provide while people are in the shelter, like budgeting and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so, there's another thing I skipped over, which is we have our supportive housing program, or permanent supportive housing and transitional housing. And that's where we have more of an opportunity to dive in and accompany people over a long period of time, like, years, to help them with kind of navigating their life overall. But we have a lot of partnerships with other organizations and with volunteer groups and churches who come in and work with people, whether it's for relationship management or financial management or anything like that. We have a pretty open door policy for inviting others to come in. I have a fun example. A few years ago, I noticed that there was a church bus operating outside our gate, and they were helping our folks. And I just thought to look up what was on the side of the bus, track down who it was, talk to them. Turned out into one of the best relationships we've had lately. And now they come inside the shelter to help us, and they just built us a brand new play area for the kids in the back. So I'm super excited about that. But yeah, we generally partner with lots of different folks we're not the only ones who serve the folks who are in our shelters, in other words.
Yeah, Dave. So what are the most common issues you have that are challenged to someone staying with you, like the individual issues?
Yeah, so what are the challenges that we have the most common? The one that bothers me the most is the increase in severe persistent mental illness. And right up there with it is the increased medical needs from an aging homelessness population. It's no surprise as society goes, the homeless population goes, we have fewer people getting married, we have fewer people having kids, there's less resiliency. So our homeless population is aging. And so if you don't have kids or relatives to look after you, you're more likely to end up homeless, but also you're showing up with nursing home type needs that we're not equipped to handle. Also, since the state psychiatric hospital system was dismantled 20+ years ago, we have become the de facto psychiatric hospital. So severe persistent mental illness is an increasing challenge for us, and then you layer drug use on top of that. it's kind of messy. So just like any other system, there's a very few number of people who create the most work, right, for us. And again, those trends are increasing. And there are just fewer places for people to go, whether it's for their physical care, mental health care, substance use care, or just anyone who cares. Yeah,
What do the volunteer opportunities look like if, like, I just wanted to go volunteer?
oh, fantastic. See Claire sitting right across from you. You talk to her when you're done. So if you go to our website, we have a really robust volunteer program, anything from feeding, clothing, thrift operations, laundry, you name it. There's forward-facing things where you can interact with guests and residents, and then there's kind of the back of the house things where you don't interact so much. And I kind of glossed over this, but we're a volunteer organization. So Fran and her colleagues are really they're the members of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. The rest of us who are employees like Christine and me and Claire, we work for Fran and her colleagues. So it's the volunteers who own us and run us, and we get hired to help them. So volunteers is like at the core of who we are and what we do. So if you're at all interested in that, yeah, please, we need you. Thank you for asking that. All right, I think I'm done. Oh, fantastic. Good deal. Thank you. So just handed in the book that we're going to donate to the community library on his behalf for speaking to us today. We appreciate that. Do we have any other announcements that we missed? Okay, please keep an eye on the upcoming programs, beavercreekrotary.com and our Facebook page. Is there anything else for the good of the club? All rise, please. Say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Everybody have a vote. You're on the spot. That's some set of days.
Okay.